What actually is an effeminate man? Okay, there's a lot of different definitions about what is a effeminate man. And most of the time, when we talk about it, we say a guy with a lisp who, hangs his hand and, all of that. Yeah, sure, that could be. I I like actually what the Bible has to say about this. Now, in the Bible, most of you, if you've ever read it and you know anything about it, there's a section where it talks about, these will not be allowed into heaven, fornicators, adulterers, and there's a word called effeminate in there. And most of the times that's people take that in a sexual manner. And that could be, especially, the derogatory terms for an effeminate man, such as, like in England, they call him what? A puff, or whatever you Brits call. You guys put in the comments what it said. But Nancy boy, that kind of thing. If you look at the other uses of that word, it's not used often in scripture. Jesus is actually somebody who uses the word effeminate. And it's when he's talking about John the Baptist. And he's talking to the people about John the Baptist. And he's like, who did you go out to see? Now, John the Baptist is this wild haired guy. He's living out in the wilderness. He's eating locusts and honey. He's wearing sackcloth. Kind of a crazy dude, right? And Christ points out, you didn't go to see the man in luxurious clothing, soft clothing. They're in the palaces. And what he's saying is, those guys over in the palaces, the luxuriant, the soft, they're not John the Baptist. No, you went to John the Baptist because he's a man with gravitas. He's a man with grit. There's something about him, and he carries a word that you need. Now, the interesting thing is that that word, soft clothing, is that same word for effeminate in the Greek. And when I was pulling this apart, it made sense of what is that concept of effeminate? And moving away from just they're gay, they're soft, they're feminine. It's a person or a man who does not go towards the discomfort, but tries to avoid discomfort, tries to avoid difficulty or hardship, and is seeking pleasure, is seeking the softness of life, seeking the luxury of life. And that concept makes so much sense when you think about those people who all they want is pleasure in life. They just want comfort. They don't want to do anything hard, and they avoid hard decisions. They avoid discomfort. They avoid adversity. And when you look at the effeminate man in that context, that person, would you trust that person who's always avoiding difficulty, who's seeking out the pleasures of life, the hedonism of life? They're soft in their approach. Are they the one you are going to rely on? Are they the person that you could see as having life experience and the grit to understand? No, there's something about the person who has been through a lot that we value what they say. We listen more. And when we hear, oh, they've been through that and that and that and that, man, wow, I want to listen. And so my challenge to you is, where are you at on that scale? Are you actively avoiding the difficulties in order to seek out the pleasures, or are you leaning into the discomfort? Are you leaning into the difficulties and the adversities, knowing that that's where the truth lies? Because you can spend a whole life and a whole career seeking out avoiding the hardships, or you can spend a whole life and career of building up grit because you leaned into it. You didn't avoid it. John the Baptist is a perfect example, right? That guy leaned into everything difficult possible. And he came away with a gravitas that even Christ honored and respected, recognized, like, this man is sold out for something bigger than himself. Now, I've got more at my website about this. I wrote a whole article about it, which I think does a better encapsulation of it. But, by all means, check out theforge.org. But become a man that is not effeminate, but what I would call an anti-fragile man, a forged man, a man with grit, a man with calluses, right? And I think you'll find that if you're okay with leaning into the difficulties and leaning into what you would call the suck, you'll learn a lot more lessons. You become more of who you're supposed to be because you've been challenged. You've been put through the ringer and come out on the other side. You'll never figure out who you are if you're seeking comfort and routine every single day of your life. I'm telling you, if if it's junk food and sitting deep in the basement and playing video games all day and not talking to anybody and just falling into your hole, you're going to become a very miserable, unhappy person as opposed to stepping out into the world and taking on adversity and challenge. And now maybe you've been bit, and I get it. It's difficult. Life is hard. You get kicked in the nuts and you don't know what to do. I get it. But the question is, do you stay down? And is have you resigned to that type of life? And if so, is that satisfying? Is that content? No, probably not. And oftentimes what you end up having to do is you've got to deal with some situations and get some healing, and then you can move forward. But check out the stuff that I have going on. If you like this type of stuff, this type of content, if you feel like this is the type of information you need to help you, check out the forge.org and the programs we've got going on. Otherwise, thank you guys. Love you all.